Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. I'm Jamie, that's Pete, that's Heath. We're looking at the roster trends of the moves that you made on Tuesday night and how that can impact some of the moves that you make on Wednesday with the most added, most dropped, and most traded players from the roster trends on CBSSports.com. Let's start with the most added players, and probably no surprise, of the Jets being very popular. Ty Johnson getting an opportunity without Michael Carter there. Elijah Moore continuing to play at a very high level. And both those guys in a great matchup taking on the Houston Texans. So let's start with the running back situation here. Pete, I'll ask you just in terms of who is the best running back for the Jets? Who do you feel the most comfortable with in this matchup against the Texans? Is it Ty Johnson or is it Tevin Coleman?
It's Ty Johnson. Now, that's who I would be leaning to. But again, they were considering not playing their franchise quarterback for one of the other two if they didn't get put on the COVID list. So I'm not sure, but I would lean to Ty Johnson. I think they should lean to Ty Johnson.
Heath, you agree?
I think in full PPR, it's probably Ty Johnson, but I don't really want to start either of them because Tevin Coleman's been pretty clearly the favorite over Johnson when he's been healthy in the running game. So I do think that Tevin Coleman's going to have more carries than Ty Johnson. It's just that Johnson's catches will be worth more.
Right, and we'll see if Zach Wilson can maybe steal something from what Mike White was doing with throwing to his running backs, but that might take away from throwing to his wide receivers because we've seen Elijah Moore really come on the last 4 weeks. So, Heath, when you look at Elijah Moore, we talked about this earlier in the show. Now that we know that Zach Wilson is starting, does Elijah Moore still feel as safe and has the chance to be as productive based on what we've seen? 2 of those games in his last 4. He's been 12 or more PPR points on for those games, but 2 or more, 25 or more points in that stretch.
No, not as safe at all. Like, there's still just as much upside, and I still have the hope that he could be a borderline number 1 wide receiver rest of the season, but that's going to require Zach Wilson improving as the season winds down. Rookies quarterbacks do that all the time. We just haven't seen any sign yet from Zach Wilson that he has. If Wilson improves even a little bit, then I think Moore can be a pretty solid number 2 wide receiver the rest of the way.
A couple of running backs to make note of the most added players. Dontrell Hilliard getting an opportunity with maybe Jeremy McNichols sitting, but as we know, no Adrian Peterson. But also Miles Sanders on that list. We know Jordan Howard is not going to play with that knee injury. So, Heath, when you look at Sanders for this week, had 16 carries, 94 yards, did lose a fumble. No work in the passing game, but that might come just given if the game is more competitive against the Giants. Are you comfortable with Miles Sanders as a starting running back this week?
Not really. Not as much as I expected to be when I first started the rankings process. And I think it's just because of what you said, no work in the passing game. Now that Jordan Howard's expected to be out, we're going to have a backfield that has Sanders, Boston Scott, and Kenneth Gainwell. If they're going to use Scott or Gainwell in any situation, I would think it would be in the passing game. And we know this Eagles team really doesn't want to pass the ball very much anyway. So I think Sanders is a better number 2 running back in non-PPR. In full PPR, I'd prefer him as a flex.
I think Sanders is going to have a good day this week. When you watch the way they're playing now and the way they run the ball, I think again, they said it didn't suit him. I don't agree with that. They've opened some real holes in the way they're designing runs. I think he can get outside and create with his legs on the outside. So I like him this week.
What took so long? What took so long for them to run the ball like this? It just doesn't make any sense.
Particularly when it's not like they're lining up and just running the ball. You have a quarterback and your run game is featured off of his ability to run. It made no sense. It was terrible coaching. They might be in the thick of the East race if they had.
They're in the thick of the wild card race right now. And Nick Sirianni's gone from a guy who you thought might get fired at the end of the season to maybe now a Coach of the Year candidate based on how this team has turned around. So hopefully Miles Sanders continues to play well. I like him this week. I understand your concern though, Heath, based on how the game flow might go and what Sanders might do.